So I finally got through the next part of the Idaho 4 January 23rd unredacted transcript, and I want to read my notes to you now. Now remember, these are summarized in my own words, so I really encourage everyone to go read it for themselves. But just because everyone's so busy, I've been busy, this is why it's taking me so long to get this to you, that I have to really sit down and read it, and I work a full-time job, so but I hope this helps in the understanding of what happened on January 23rd. That was a closed hearing that none of us got to witness. Now, in the last part, Anne had a Miss Nowlin, who was the lab manager for the ISP forensics lab in Meridian. That is the only lab in Idaho State that does DNA testing on items of evidence. Now on page 66, she starts to talk about a single source versus probative comparison. There was, in the trash pool of Brian Koberger's parents' home, a male E, as in Edward, that was matched or believed to be a parental figure related to the DNA on the knife sheath, which would be essentially Brian's father, because it was a male. And it was a single source of DNA. Now, when it comes to single source DNA, she explained that they can manually look at that and exclude it from comparison of the DNA with the knife sheath. Now, there was another mixture of DNA, I believe it was male B. I'll have to look at my notes, male B. But that one, what I understood it to be is that Anne was trying to insinuate that Brian Koberger's DNA, based on what Miss Nowlin and her had discussed a few days prior, that Miss Nowlin indicated to her that this other mixture of DNA had Brian Koberger's DNA. And she believed that. When confronted by Anne on the stand, she basically said that she believed it was in her notes. She went back and checked, and she doesn't see it. Kind of convenient, but let's move forward. And so when it comes to mixtures of DNA, they can't do like a definitive, I'm looking at it, I'm comparing it to knife sheath, it's excluded because it's not the person, right? But when it's mixed in, they have to do a probative comparison. What that means is, what is the probability that this person is this, the DNA involved? They can't definitively say yes or no because it's mixed with other things, which makes sense. On cross-examination by the state, when it went back to them to question Miss Nowlin, they said that the lab had a legitimate reason to test the DNA, and that he went in to ask if there was medical information that was gathered from the testing, and then she said no, which I call BS, because the idea is that there's SNP and STR, and when you get into it, one has more information than the other, so you have to really look at exactly what type of testing they did, what type of profiles they developed, and one is just kind of more simple. The other is way more information about a human being, what diseases they're prone to, etc. It really gets into the nitty-gritty of who you are as a person, which then calls into effect the HIPAA rights, right? We have medical privacy rights. They went into talking about how Othram Labs, which is the federal level of labs that the DNA sheath on the sheath was transferred to eventually, Othram is run by the FBI or contracted with them, so that's why they were saying that it goes only to databases that law enforcement is allowed to access. That's what's in question here, because there's an interim policy within the FBI or the DOJ that the FBI has to follow in regards to only checking databases that law enforcement is allowed to look at. Well, Anne is basically saying or suggesting that they didn't do that they went to public forums of databases like Ancestry, 23andMe, etc., and looked at Brian's family history, or got to Brian through looking through those databases, it violates the interim policy of the DOJ that the FBI is supposed to follow. I hope that makes sense. It's a lot of information, but I'm trying to narrow it down for you guys. Now, there was a slip up by Miss Nowlin on page 79. I encourage you to go read it. But she literally says the entire knife was swabbed. And even the court clarified that with her. He goes, I'm sorry, did you just say the whole knife was swabbed? And she goes, sorry, the knife sheath. So it's like, there's no knife. We don't have the weapon in this case. So why is she slipping up saying the whole knife was swabbed? Do they have the knife and they just haven't said that they have it? That was a huge slip up for this Miss Nowlin, and they're going to say it's negligence or that she just accidentally had a mishap of words, but that's a pretty big fudge to say that something was completely swabbed that doesn't even exist in evidence. So just to clarify, when I said SNP, or single nucleotide polymorphism, that is what includes your medical information. The STR profiles, no medical information. So my next part, which I will be posting later today, is moving on to a new so Anne came back up and she questioned Miss Nowlin again and just kind of reiterated the things that she had pointed out, maybe discrepancies or things that Miss Nowlin had told her and now she's backtracking on. So it kind of was things I had already told you guys, so I'm not going to go through that again. But now they're moving on to a Matthew Gamet, and that person, I will cover their testimony in my next video. So make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Also to my YouTube channel as well, because I do post this there if you prefer that forum, watching it on your TV, etc. It is there as well. It's just a little delayed because I post here first, so on TikTok. But I hope you guys enjoy this and make sure that you stay up to date on this case, because we are going to trial in August. And it's very complicated. There's a lot more documents that were posted that I definitely want to get through. So I'm trying to get through this document today so that we can move on to all the new stuff that was posted. But this is important to review because a lot of people don't read 175 pages worth of unredacted testimony, and it's just as important as the stuff that we do see that is recorded. We need to look at what was said because there's a lot of things in here that were damning for the prosecution. So yeah, we'll take a look at this Matthew Gamet next.